Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bums Breakdown. As always, my name is Max and we are joined by Dylan. As always, Dylan, we'll go over the New Mexico game first. After, obviously, we touch on the news this week regarding the San Diego Loyal being their last season. Dylan, obviously, I don't want to touch on this too much. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now, but kind of what are your kind of initial thoughts and kind of now kind of going into the rest of the season as well?
I mean, it's been hard. I think a lot of us who are a little more involved have kind of seen this coming, just from rumblings and rumors that have been going around. Yeah, it's been really hard. It's been a pretty emotional week. That announcement video that came out was like more emotional than I think anybody really expected it to be. So yeah, it's definitely puts kind of a weird filter on the rest of the year. It's hard to it changes the motivation for a lot of these players. It goes from trying to win for the sake of winning to maybe trying to extend their careers, and it's just kind of it'll be different knowing that we only have so many games left. But a part of me also is glad that they just came out and told us as soon as they could. I think that if they had tried to keep this under wraps till the end of the season, when it would become increasingly obvious with each passing week that something was up, that would have been really hard, and I think it would have made it worse. So, kudos to the front office for being transparent with us, which to their credit is something they've, for the most part, always done really well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I could sit here and talk for an hour about it, but I don't have much to say other than like it's been a lot of fun, and I will miss this. But we still have a few games left, so let's try and maybe turn our form around and see if we can't bury ourselves with the cup.
Yeah, I also like I said I know personally myself the watching that video was tough, and I'm not afraid to say that obviously I did end up crying watching that video. It's tough for obviously Andrew as well. I know to kind of speak about it, and like I said, everything that's gone into the club. I mean, everyone involved to it. Obviously, it's definitely not an easy time, and like I said, it does change the kind of I guess how we view the rest of the season now. I mean, I think we've kind of at times been kind of, I guess, tough on the team this year, and I'm hoping that they can kind of use their news this weekend to kind of turn into motivation for the rest of the season. Obviously, we know there's kind of a finite number of games left. I think no doubt will there kind of hopefully be sellout crowds for the rest of the season. I think I saw early this week as well, or at least yesterday, that the shop had kind of record sales as well, which obviously is great to see, but obviously not in great circumstances there as well. But I do think that, again, players now are motivated, obviously, to win for the club, win for the fans, but also, again, to kind of, again, put themselves in the shop window and put on kind of the best version of themselves as well. But yeah, it's obviously tough for everyone involved, and again, I think just the fact that we have games left to watch, I think that's probably the best thing. And kind of if that news came at the end of the season, hey, like after the last game, that's it. I think that would be obviously a lot tougher. But I think now it's more so celebrating the team, celebrating everyone involved, and kind of what we've kind of come together. But yeah, it's tough times. But we'll go over New Mexico 2-2 draw. Obviously, Dylan's second correct prediction in. I don't know if it was back to back, but pretty close there. Um, and I mean, we've had what a 5 game home stretch now, 7 points from those 5 games out of 15. And then I got really here kind of, is that expected or kind of underperforming? And is it kind of same old loyal after this New Mexico game?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said I wanted at least 11 points out of those 5 games, so we came up 4 points short there. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. Like, it's an underperformance in the sense that I know this team can do better, and I actually do think that some of those performances in this stretch were a little hard done by. Got unlucky a couple times, but it also probably is kind of expected. I mean, this has been this season. It's wins have been a little bit hard to come by. So yeah, I don't know, maybe not quite same old loyal. I definitely think we started to see some good things, some improvements, but at the end of the day, they didn't get it done. So yeah, it was pretty frustrating. And that second goal we conceded was especially irritating because the defense just kind of switched off, which you can't be doing. So yeah, I, you know, it's less points than I would have wanted out of that 5 game stretch, but it's probably about where, if I was being very honest with myself, I would have guessed we'd have ended up.
Yeah, I think that's probably kind of about right as far as kind of how we are currently performing. I think whether we see a different performance kind of come this RGV game, I definitely do hope so. And kind of the more fuel the guys have now to the fire, and kind of again going into the rest of the season, there's kind of like I said a different kind of aim now and target. I think we were kind of speaking about kind of home playoff game, kind of how far can we get on the playoffs, but I think kind of now that's all out the window. I think really now it's kind of win the USL Championship or I wouldn't say or bust because it's really the end after that. But I think it's kind of the aim now that everyone's kind of pushing towards, which again, it kind of, I guess, brings up our expectations more now. But I said this kind of hopeful now for the rest of the year there. And I put in here kind of a week, I think it's kind of improving, regressing. I don't know whether, like I said, I think whether we see a whole brand new kind of way we play on this weekend, kind of with the more motivation or not. But I mean, after this home stretch, have you kind of taken away the news this week? Have your expectations changed at all now? Kind of more so, just kind of hopefully we make playoffs.
Yeah, I think in a weird way, I feel less stressed about results now than I did before this announcement, which seems weird, right? Because we've got, what, 10 games left, and it would be cool to win as many of them as we can. But I think now, when you, I don't know, this is kind of going to be like a weird thought, but when you know your team is always going to be there again, you're stressed about success because you want them to be the best that they can be, right? But now that we know our team is not going to be there anymore, like far and away my priority for these last few games, especially the home games, is to just enjoy myself. Like I would rather we go out and play 5-5 draws than like grind out 1-0 wins at this point. Obviously wins are good, and like if we're going to win the cup, we're going to need some gritty wins, but I just want to have fun now. I don't like, I know that even we could win the cup and that'll be the end. So I just want to enjoy it. I think like on the field success in the traditional sense somehow has become less important to me. And it's more just about enjoying this time, with this group of people and this community that I've grown to love. So, yeah, in a weird way, it feels like it's removed some pressure, which feels very counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not every game's been enjoyable to watch this season, but yeah, like I said, it's now more so, I guess, a celebration of the loyal now, and kind of, I wouldn't say like a homecoming as such, but I guess somewhat weight is lifted off our shoulders in a way, and kind of like everything else that was surrounding the club. Maybe that played into kind of the players' performances recently too. Obviously, they must have known way before us that something wasn't kind of quite right there. But we'll move into kind of the main part of the show today, the Rio Grande Valley Toros preview. So far, I always call them RGV because that's an absolute mouthful. But RGV right now, ninth in the Western Conference, 4 points off of the playoffs. They are on 7 wins, 10 draws, and 8 losses. And also, no one in the USL has drawn as many games as RGV there as well. 32 goals for, 36 against with a -4 goal difference. They did actually beat Phoenix 1-0 in the last game as well. And before that, only lost 2-1 to San Antonio. And then drew with Louisville 2-2 before that one there too. And then, as we all know, they beat us 3-2 at home in our earlier fixture this season. But Dylan, for you, I mean, ninth position for RGV, is that kind of expected on how they're currently playing and kind of their squad?
Yeah, I think that's about fair. I mean this as no disrespect to RGV, but I think that we talked about this as we were getting ready to record this. I think they're like a perfect example of what we mean when we say there aren't any bad teams in the West. They're perennially, like every single year that Loyal have been involved, RGV are like either just missing out on the playoffs or just making the playoffs, right? They're perennially kind of bottom half Western Conference, but they're a solid team. I don't think it would be fair to say that they're a bad team. So I think that RGV are like a perfect encapsulation of what we mean when we say there are no bad teams in the West. Especially when you consider that travel to Edinburgh, Texas, I've heard from many different sources across many different years, is like easily the most tedious away trip that we'll make, because it's not a big population center. There's not a lot nearby. It's hard to get to. So yeah, it definitely is one of those like sneaky difficult fixtures against a team that, if you were to just look at the table, maybe seems not that great, and they probably are about where they deserve to be based on their squad. But Yeah, I really don't think anybody should go into this game with any like notion that this will be an easy one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know kind of we played New Mexico last week, who were what 10th in the table. Memphis, who only won one game in eight, and obviously both of them came out with good results versus us as well. I mean, I'm looking back here at the last fixture as well. Obviously, lost 3-2. I think they definitely deserve that one as well. I mean, obviously Joe Corona got the penalty right at the end in injury time to kind of make it 3-2. But kind of stats wise, I mean, they had 17 shots compared to our 10. And I mean, it was like I said, it was a tough early game of the season to watch that one, kind of after how we had such a great start there. Kind of touch on their lineup. I mean, I think they started with kind of a 4-4-2 kind of earlier in the season. They've moved more into kind of a 3-4-2-1, which again we know pretty much every team in the USL now is kind of sticking with that back three and the two wing backs there. But I will say kind of their two wingers do kind of help a lot in this formation, which means they haven't to rely too much on their fullbacks to kind of be their attacking outlet all the time. But kind of the Ricketts and Ruiz as their fullbacks, very good there as well. Taylor Devere in the middle has been kind of probably their key player, aside from Cabrera. But Devere, 5 goals, 4 assists, with 51 chances created as well for the side. And again, that's over double the person in second. I think the person with the second amount of most chances create for them is on like 24. And then, like I said, about Cabrera was a top goal scorer with 7 goals. News actually came out today that he'd been recalled from his loan from a Colombian second division team, and now he's been transferred to a German fourth division side. So, again, good news for us there. So, pretty much the top goal scorer isn't going to be playing this weekend. Dylan, I mean, have you had much chance to watch RGV or any of their players? Kind of any kind of things to add on, kind of how they play, or any kind of standouts?
No, I wouldn't say they're a team I've gotten to watch more than others this year. But I do, here and there they've popped up. They're a very defensively solid team. They tend to play a slower game, which can be tough for a team like us that wants to have that free flowing kind of control of the ball. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Cabrera there and Davila are some of their big players. Akwe, number 3 in the back, has really stood out for me every time we've played them. I think he even scored against us last year. He's a really physical defender, but very technical and pretty solid on the ball. Yeah, he's stood out for me. And their goalkeeper, Tyler Derrick, I think has been around the USL a long time and is like a bona fide solid USL goalkeeper. So yeah, I don't know, no like huge superstars in this team, but a pretty functional unit that can't be underestimated.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we always know that RGV are a solid team. We usually have kind of close kind of run fairs with them as well. So it is going to be an easy game, like I said, especially out in Texas as well. But again, they are definitely a beatable team, especially after losing pretty much their best player, kind of top goal scorer there as well. We'll move into our lineup here. I mean, like I said, we've spoken up previously. We are pretty close to kind of the starting 11 being pretty much the same. I know last week we were kind of pretty one player off on predicting it. Again, looking at our last lineup here with Koke and goal, back line of Camden, Stoneman, and Guzman, and then Perez, Corona, Colin, Charlie, and Bodley kind of across that midfield 5, with obviously Bodley and Perez as 2 wing backs, and then Guido kind of coming into, I wouldn't say kind of the Toomey role, but Toomey's played there primarily kind of that kind of shadow striker, kind of connecting that midfield to the attack, and then Conway up top there. Dylan, anyone that you would kind of take out from that last lineup, or kind of anyone that you would add in there that may have not featured much in the last game?
I think Guido had an okay game, even though some people were kind of saying he didn't play that well. I think we created decent chances, even though the final score maybe doesn't reflect that. But that said, I don't know that moving Guido up top was an improvement over what Toomey brought there. So I might bring Toomey back in, and I might even say drop Guido a little deeper. I don't know who you take out of that midfield, probably Colin or Joe. But I'm saying if you want to keep Guido in, I think he's just that advanced like shadow striker role is really not what works best for him. So I would like to see Toomey come back in, whether that means Guido gets dropped or moves further back into the midfield. Not for me to decide, but yeah, I like what we were seeing from that Toomey Conway partnership.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've touched on Guido so far this season. I mean, he's been a bit better recently, kind of some more brighter sparks there, but definitely I don't think his best position anymore is kind of in that attacking kind of midfield role, more of a kind of like a number 8, like you mentioned there, too, kind of either for Corona or Charlie. I think probably his best suit for now, which again is a shame because that means one of those 4 has to not play. But I do think it's very tough to kind of get all 4 of those in the same lineup, and for us to be kind of playing on top of our game there. But I think either kind of Toomey or even kind of Musha Galusha in there as well. 2 guys who can kind of run at defenders, kind of quick and kind of make runs in behind. I just think Guido's kind of more of a, like I said, a box-to-box kind of get on the ball, drive the ball forward, and kind of not make those runs in behind, because I don't think he really has the kind of legs anymore to make those starting runs there either. But again, still got Nick Muna injured, which again is still a big miss for us. And I will say, obviously, Guzman came back in. Simba's done great when he's been playing recently. Aside from that, I think it's really tough to add anyone else in there. Obviously, Collier as well. But again, I think Collier only comes back in really if you play with the front 3, which we have done at times. But again, we'll see. I doubt, again, we've got 10 games left in the season. We know it's probably going to be the kind of 3-5-2 for the rest of the year. But I do hope 4-2-3-1 comes back at some point, because I think that's the best formation. But we'll move into kind of things to look out for here. So once again, do we change anything or keep playing the loyal way? Which, again, as we know, the 3-5-2, very kind of slow, tedious kind of build-up. But again, like RGV, how they play, I know you already mentioned them, they play very slow. I'll be honest, I watched kind of the first half of that game versus Phoenix for them. I'll be honest, that was an incredibly boring game to watch. RGV play so slow. I genuinely thought I was watching a scrimmage for the first kind of 20 minutes. It was literally played at like 5 miles an hour. So maybe we come out quick there, get an early goal, and kind of force them to kind of get out their shell a little bit, maybe. And then how do we do back on the road versus a team who's beaten us already? And then how do we fare defensively versus the side who scored 3 first half goals versus us previously? I think, like I said, if we get the early goal, they'll have to open up and then obviously create more chances. And then can we limit Davia's influence in their attack? Like I said, he's pretty much the standout player. Cut him off. I think that's going to allow us a lot more success in that game. But then anything else to add to those things there, or anything to touch on?
Not too much to add. I would like to see us mix up the formation, which I know we've said pretty much every week for a while now. But I think especially given the light of the developments this week, I think like a fuck it YOLO approach, excuse my language, might be kind of more acceptable now than it has been in the past. So who knows? Have some fun with it. I did want to add too, though, and I hate to be this guy who always talks about the weather when it's humid, but I think part of the reason games are so slow when played in Edinburgh, Texas, is because it's constantly like 80 plus degrees and 80 plus humidity there, like 24 hours a day. So it's hard to run around for 90 minutes. But yeah, anyway, I just reiterate, it's not an easy place to go play.
And is it Edinburgh or Edinburgh?
It's Edinburgh. There's no H at the end.
Oh, that's horrible.
They pronounce it that way anyway.
Well, I know most Americans pronounce Edinburgh in Scotland as Edinburgh, but that's a pet peeve of mine. But that's for another one. But yeah, like I said, it's going to be a tough game. I do hope somewhat the shackles are kind of taken off and we play a bit more attacking, kind of free flowing. As a more so, I guess one of my favorite American soccer phrases, kind of balls to the wall and kind of going for it. We'll see. But as always, to wrap things up here, predictions, Dylan, you've been on fire recently, so I may have to. I don't know if I want to copy you today, but what are you going with prediction wise for this one?
I'm gonna go 1-1. I don't know. I was torn between like, do I want to go with just undying optimism or do I want to try and keep this hot streak of predictions going? So I'm gonna go with the latter there. 1-1. Like I said, these games at RGV are like always slog fests. It just seems like players are tired out there because they probably are. I don't know. I would love to be wrong. I'd love to see us come out flying and score a bunch of goals, but I'm going to go 1-1. For us, I'll go Conway, and for RGV, I'll go Akwe off a corner or set piece.
If you'd asked me earlier in the week, I was leaning towards more like 1-1 when we were meant to record earlier, but after the news this week, I think I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to be very optimistic here. I think we go kind of all out attacking and players are fired up, I hope. But I'll go with Conway Brace, and then we'll go with Perez again. I think he's too good to leave off the score sheet there. And for them, I mean, I'll probably go to Villa. I mean, he's pretty much been the standout from that midfield. He's no doubt going to create a few chances here and there for himself and others, but we shall see. But Dylan, anything else to add before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, I'm just kind of going back to what we started the show with. I did want to add too that one of the things that has made me feel a little bit better this last couple days, despite all the bad things being announced, has been the outpour of support and affection from people all around, not just the U.S. soccer community. I've seen people from other countries who said like, "Oh, I'm a USL fan, and I hate to see that this is happening." And I think that stems from a couple different things. One of it is just the sheer asinineness of like the American soccer system and the soccer wars that develop because of it, and people hate to see the results of it. But I think also, on the other hand, a lot of people from around the country and to some extent the world have looked and seen like, hey, wait a minute, like there's a club that actually is doing things right, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And I think that seeing a club like that not be successful is a hard pill to swallow, because oftentimes we as people want to say like, well, what was done wrong? But the truth is nothing was done wrong. It was surely the circumstances that dictated this. But the point I'm trying to get at is I think that the outpouring of support from the US soccer community at large has been really heartening, because it's a reminder to me of, one of the toughest things that I've ever had to learn in my own life. And I'm sorry to get a little emotional here, but relationships don't have to last forever to be meaningful. And San Diego Loyal maybe have only lasted 4 years, and that will be the end of it. But I can tell with absolute certainty by some of the reaction from people around the community that the impact of San Diego Loyal will be felt for a long time. And I think it is totally fair to say that San Diego Loyal kickstarted the revival of professional outdoor soccer, men's and women's, here in San Diego. I know Wave was kind of getting things going when Loyal got started, but I think Loyal were kind of the proof of concept that this was going to work. And so I'm not saying don't be sad. Um, Obviously it's sad, but I think years down the line, all of us who have put our time and sweat and energy into this will be able to look back and say, that club might not be there anymore, but the things it did and the impact it had are still felt. And I think that's important. And I know it's hard to like take solace in that right now. But I think it's something important to remember. Anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah, I would add something there, but honestly, I don't think I can top that. I think like everything you've said there is kind of absolutely spot on. I think obviously Loyal have set a great example of how a club should be with kind of on the field performances, but definitely kind of everything going off the field as well. And like I said, kind of the messages we've seen from all over the world from different people, just kind of shows how much many people have been affected by Loyal, and just kind of all the good they've done for everyone too. And like I said, it's never a kind of a nice thing to happen for anyone's club. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It's just not easy to kind of see happening to a club like Loyal, which again I wouldn't say is kind of I don't even know what the word to say is really here, but it's yeah, it's not nice to see. But that'll be things there. Obviously going forward, the next game we do have coming up after this one here. Let me quickly check here. I believe
Should be Birmingham.
Birmingham. That was another home game there as well. So definitely that one there is going to be an absolutely huge game. I'm hoping to sell out. The crowd's obviously as loud as possible, and everyone there as well. So again, thank you guys for listening or watching, and again, we will see you very soon.